Yeah, so I deleted my save data and now I don't have access to free roam. But I did learn that, there was this thing here, you know, this game has a free update. So we'll play with the audio tour. Or play the audio tour. I don't know. I think there's raccoon involved or something. There's also trophies related to this, so yeah. Could be pretty quiet from, well, I am, not the game. Yeah. But here's Julia again. Love of Henry's life. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, tape there. Oh, cool headphones.
Hello there, welcome to the Firewatch audio tour. My name is Rich Summer. I voiced the character of Henry, the guy that you're currently controlling with those buttons there.
Whoa, Henry.
And I'll be chatting with you in a little bit. Thanks for...
Hold on. Just, put subtitles on. But, woo, Henry. And I don't remember which dog I picked the first time. I think it was the German Shepherd. Doesn't matter what dog you picked. No, they both run away. Both, scared of pretty much anything. Okay, cool. Firewatch backstory. Wait. Here you go.
Hi, I'm Sean Vanneman. I wrote the bulk of 100% of this game.
Hey, I'm Jake Rodkin. I did a lot of level design, UI design, and worked with everyone on the story for Firewatch.
The game has this weird structure that Chris and I talk about in another tape. This is the first thing I wrote, was this opening of the game that jumps between Henry's life and the trip out to the woods. And I used a little product called Twine to do that, which you can download and use. It's just a very simple choose your own adventure tool. The simplest way to program a video game that one can then share with friends and play.
I think we were worried that the team would sort of perceive Henry as a blank slate, as sort of a generic game player protagonist, and we wanted to make sure, or we wanted to get in everyone's mindset, you're playing as a specific guy with a specific life.
Yeah, there's a reason when you play video games that a lot of your protagonists have amnesia, because it's really difficult when you're driving a character around.
Is that really a thing?
Who knows things about their life, or his or her life, that you, who you ostensibly are that person, don't know. So yeah, we kept trying to write an opening of the game that happened sort of like weeks into Henry's experience, and then quickly realized that it was like, well, why would he not be able to say X? Well, because his relationship with his wife is Y. So, but the player doesn't know that. Yeah. And this was the quickest way to get everybody on board, was to just take the thing that I wrote that answered the question, I think, for Jane and you at the beginning, which was like, who is Henry? And I would write these character profiles that were really bad. And then I went, what if I just let you play a thing? And then you can figure out who he is. And we held on to that until we had the idea to put into the game.
It means that when you're playing
And
Firewatch
that's how they got
and
the twin.
Henry and Delilah start talking about Henry's wife, you don't have to learn it through his dialogue, because you made the choices that brought him where he is today.
Hi, I'm Sean Vanneman. I wrote the bulk of 100% of this game.
Hey, I'm
Oh,
Jake
okay.
Rodkin.
I
I
thought
did a
there was
lot
another
of
T.
level design, UI design,
Guess not.
worked with everyone on the story for Firewatch.
The game has this weird structure that Chris and I talk about in another tape. This is the first thing I wrote, was this opening of the game that jumps between Henry's life and the trip out to the woods. And I used a little product called Twine to do that, which you can download and use.
Yeah,
It's just
so-
a very simple choose your own
You
adventure
have
tool.
yourself.
The simplest way to program a video game that one can then share with friends and play.
I think we were worried that the team would sort of perceive Henry as a blank slate, as sort of a generic game player protagonist, and we wanted to make sure, or we wanted to get in everyone's mindset, you're playing as a specific guy with a specific life.
Yeah, there's a reason when you play video games that a lot of your protagonists have amnesia.
That's not
Because
great.
it's really difficult when you're driving a character around who knows things about their life, or his or her life, that you, who you ostensibly are that person,
Here you
don't
go.
know.
Hi, it's Jake again.
Hey, I'm Chris Remo.
Oh, hey, Chris.
Hi there. I was a game designer and the music composer on Firewatch.
Nice.
So you're hearing now the first piece of interactive music that went into Firewatch. The first piece of music that actually...
Responds to what you're doing in the game?
Exactly, yeah. So this is a piece of music that's divided into technically
man,
6
hmm.
parts. And what's happening is, as you're playing through this introductory sequence, when you hit certain points in the narrative, it sends a signal to Wise, which is the name of the audio middleware we're using. And then when Wise gets that signal, it waits until the next sort of musically appropriate transition point, and then when it hits that, it smoothly transitions into the next section of music. And so it creates the effect that you're just listening to one big long piece of music that just happens to be timed very nicely
It just
to your
happens.
playthrough.
It just happens to get sadder and sadder at the exact rate that your life gets sadder and sadder.
Yeah, exactly. This was a challenging process, both because I had no idea what the music should sound like, and also because it was the first interactive piece of music in the game. So the technical sort of just how does this work was also a part of it. But as it turned out, this music was changed. I mean, Jake, you may remember this. This music changed relatively little over the course of development in comparison to a lot of the
I think
other music.
it started off as maybe 3 pieces and it expanded out to 5 over development. But other than that, it's
So here's the
one of the
journal.
first things dropped in,
Yeah.
shipped.
Should we take a
We're
look
gonna hear
at
about
it?
that a lot on this commentary.
There's just not really much else we can do besides look at it, so let's just open it up. Well, at least it was blocked by the R. I mean, wow. Yeah, that's still a thing apparently. Yeah, I'm gonna pick mostly the other decision than what I picked the first time. You know, I still got her to go to, you know, the great job she earned. Reminds me of an episode of Law and Order Criminal Intent. Except, the woman who had the, condition didn't have, early onset dementia or Alzheimer's. Okay. And that's how Henry got here. It's taking a while to load. Well, oh, wait, here's another one. Did I miss one? I don't think I did, because,
I'm Nels Anderson, and I was a designer and gameplay programmer on Firewatch.
I am Jane Ng, and I worked on the 3D environment art in Firewatch.
So, you're likely standing at the base of your home away from home. Your home in the wilderness. For all intents and purposes, more or less, this is basically just a real straight-up tower like they existed out in the woods, right?
Yeah, I think it is Portland. There's somebody in Portland who was very good about archiving a lot of blueprints about various type of fire lookouts of the state, and we got some, and that's how we started off building the the lookout tower, just by looking through how they were actually built.
It's slightly taller than a real one, right?
We had to make quite a bit of adjustments because, for example, the stairway you see here, normally fire lookout stairways are not on the outside, but for more interesting gameplay and views for the player, we opted to change that. But ultimately we still wanted the tower to feel like a real tower, so we had to figure stuff like, hey, how does the plumbing actually work? How do they get water? Stuff like that. It actually is very important for a real tower.
And if you go look around the base of the tower, you will actually see a big old plastic cistern.
We are not a survival game of any sort, but it is important to make sure that all that stuff is actually thought out, so the space feels realistic.
Right. You don't want someone playing the game being like, wait a minute. There's no how does this guy drink? How is he not dead?
When I normally play video games, I'm always interested in stuff like, hey, where's the bathroom? Here we have the outhouse and you can go anywhere, but stuff like water is very important. So in a real fire lookout situation, what they do is they will use a cistern, and they will capture rainwater from the roof, and you will actually see that we actually have a little pipe down from the roof, and we even have what they call a first flush filter being there, which is actually what they use.
That's my favorite kind of filter, really.
I had to look at what do
you do, because once you go, okay, you collect rainwater from the roof, it won't be all nasty. And then, oh, hey, somebody already figured that out on how to collect rainwater. What do you know?
We actually visited a number of different lookout towers as we were researching the game, and it was always very satisfying to see elements of things we saw in the real world and make their way back into the game, and vice versa.
So we also made sure to have a tab here, like a little faucet, where you can actually get water from the cistern.
Yeah, if you click on it, it will play an animation of a hand gripping a knob and water comes out for 2 seconds. Doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
But it's there.
I think for a while we actually were thinking should we just let the player turn on the water? Or then what happens if the water just runs out? And then James had a very good idea of just going just make one animation that you turn on the faucet and turn it off immediately, just so that you know, hey, there's water in here and you won't die. That's Henry.
Yeah, it's always a problem, isn't it? I don't know. I don't make games, I just play them.
Good morning, Henry. Well, I guess good afternoon. You probably slept like a rock. Anyway, there's still a few hours of daylight to get some work in. I can see you at your desk, so call me when you're ready.
Hey, sorry, guess I slept in.
You got a relaxing, what, 14 hours of sleep? Whew.
Yeah, Jesus, I guess it's what, 6?
6:45.
Whoops.
Don't worry about it.
Hey, there's
That
that
hike
book.
puts everyone out of commission for a day or two. But now that you're up, let me quickly get you acquainted with the job. There's a thing in the middle of your room with a round map on it. Do you see it?
No.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
This is the Osborne Firefinder, invented in 1914 by W.B.
Parker.
Osborne?
You use this
Damn
to
it.
spot, you guessed it, What the fuck?
What is it?
Nothing. You use this to... Oh, fuck me!
Good God, language, lady.
Out your west-facing window. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Are those fucking fireworks?
Oh hey, there's another cassette. How the fuck did this thing get in here?
Confirm. Do you see them?
Nels, it feels like you on the team did the most sort of digging about what the real job is like, what is in the actual space, and then checked us against reality when we kind of went off the reservation.
I mean, in general, I really like doing research. That's sort of a thing I've enjoyed on all the projects I've worked on. So for this, a bunch of folks on the team read this great book called Fire Season by Philip Connors, which is kind of like a memoir-ish thing from this dude who still is an active fire lookout even today. But I also just, I called up the Ministry of Forests and Natural Resources here in British Columbia and got redirected to like 3 increasingly small Ministry of Forest offices until someone just gave me literally the phone number of this cool old lady who had once been a fire lookout. So I just kind of chatted with her for like an hour and a half just about what doing the job was like. The reason why the game is not a simulation of being a fire lookout is because what everyone talks about is that the #1 challenge with the job is that it is incredibly, impossibly boring.
Because you can't like read a book, you can't like be doing other things, right? Like
not really.
Yeah.
At the end of day 3, where Delilah mentions it's like, Karen's like, well, what do I do for the rest of the summer? She's like, you sit in that chair and you look out the window. That is actually what fire lookouts really do. So all the folks I talked to said like, figuring out ways to combat boredom is the #1 thing. The lady I talked to, she said she did a whole lot of needlepoint and cross stitch because you can do that without looking at your hands very much. Obviously, like, lookouts are also responsible for doing, maintenance on their towers. But again, it's like not maintenance because some crazy Yahoo smashed up your tower. It's maintenance like, oh, the paint is kind of flaking off. Better paint it. Or these...
Chris again here.
Ah,
Hey,
shit.
Jake, congratulations,
Didn't listen to
player.
that
You
one.
have completed the teen loop.
Oh man, that's true. This is the end of what was originally called teenloop.unity, a scene file in our game engine Unity, because we thought that was just going to be the file corresponding to the first
this piece of game that you've just played.
Yeah, this first big objective.
But then we kept building, so all of Firewatch is in fact saved inside of a file called teenloop.unity. So
Yep,
know that
entire
for the
game.
rest of your play experience, you are inside of the teen loop.
Yeah. This part of the game, you probably are right now if you're listening to these commentary notes basically in sequence. The music is either...
Nels, it feels like you on the team did the most sort of digging about what the real job is like, what is in the actual space, and then checked us against reality
my
when
bad,
we kind
guys.
of went off the reservation.
I mean, in general, I really like doing research. That's sort of a thing I've enjoyed on all the projects
I
I've
just
worked
had
on.
to listen to
So for
out
this,
of their
a bunch
beautiful
of folks on the
voices
team
again.
read this great book called Fire Season by Philip Connors, which is kind of like a memoir-ish thing from this dude who still is an active fire lookout even today. But I also just
You know what? I never actually
called up
used
the
the
Ministry of
outhouse here.
Forests and Natural Resources here in British Columbia and got redirected to like 3 increasingly small Ministry of Forest offices until someone just gave me literally the phone number of this cool old lady who had once been a fire lookout. So I just kind of chatted with her for like an hour and a half just about what doing the job was like. The reason why the game is not a simulation of being a fire lookout is because what everyone talks about is that the #1 challenge with the job is that it is incredibly, impossibly boring.
Because you can't, like, read a book. You can't, like, be doing other things, right? Like,
not really.
Yeah.
At the end of day 3, where Delilah mentions, it's like, Karen's like, well, what do I do for the rest of the summer? She's like, you sit in that chair and you look out the window. That is actually what fire lookouts really do. So all the folks I talked to said, like, figuring out ways to combat boredom is the #1 thing. The lady I talked to, she said she did a whole lot of needlepoint and cross stitch because you can do that without looking at your hands very much. Obviously, like, lookouts are also responsible for doing, you know, maintenance on their towers. But again, it's like not maintenance because some crazy Yahoo smashed up your tower. It's maintenance like, oh, the paint is kind of flaking off. Better paint it. Or these trees have grown too tall, so I need to chop them down. Not, I'm chopping down trees to form a weird log bridge.
The main takeaway from it, whenever we would talk to someone who had done this job is, why would you make a game about that? That is the most boring time of my entire life. So hopefully we showed them how.
It feels like people who do this job like fall into 2 camps, right? They're the people who think they can do it and can't hack it and bail after like a month or 2. You know, people like Jack Kerouac, who tried to do this and wrote about it in Desolation Angels, and then he went crazy from a lack of cigarettes and then left. Or the people who kind of enjoy the solitude and then figure out ways to deal with it. But, you know, we do have, like, a lot of the window dressing for the stuff people use, like, other folks.
I bring a lot of books.
Well, we read a lot of books.
Trade.
And we, like, trade the books between the different lookouts through rangers and stuff like that. So, of course, Firewatch has a crap ton of weird books in it. Stuff like that.
About, you know, being a Firewatch person.
Hi there, it's Jake.
And Chris again.
Hey, so here we are in the cache box clearing, or at least I guess that's what we call it. There's a lot of cache boxes in Firewatch, but this was the first one that we placed into the game.
For a long time, this was the cache box.
It was the cache box, even though we knew we wanted to have more. This area was actually one of the first areas that we built out to any degree that looks like a physical world. It was a really good proving ground for us. Like, when me and Nels Anderson were grayboxing the world at the very beginning, we tried a million different things, like maybe this was on the edge of a cliff, or maybe it was a secret that you had to find. And I think it was Sean who suggested that he really wanted it to feel like a warm, sort of enclosed space, like you've stumbled onto a little glen and you want to stay there for a while, which I think makes sense because we wanted people to actually stop and poke around and have it not feel like the woods.
Yeah.
This was an area with a lot of firsts. I remember this really ended up looking a lot like Ollie's concept art in a way I think that felt like an accomplishment when it all got built out. It was also the first audio I implemented in the entire game, I believe.
The Foley on the locks and the lid?
Right, exactly.
Oh, this was, man, this was also, the cache box was also our proving ground for detailed object interaction with Henry animating the lock. And also, there is an exit out if you back up and turn left. That was the first time I prototyped one-way drops and also any like sort of secret paths, because the way that you cross the canyon also showed up here, and I didn't tell anyone on the team about it for like months, and people only noticed it once they started playing the back half of the game, and it was very fulfilling for me.
Nice.
Cache box,
land of firsts and secrets.
That's the state flag of cache boxes.
Fucking fireworks. Seriously. No, can't go that way. Dive straight drop down there. Okay, where the shit. Okay. Yeah, I totally walked the wrong way.